Alright, YouTube, this video is probably long past due. I should have done this actually way earlier on in Shogun 2, but I figured, you know, why not? Now, I've seen some characters on YouTube that have posted, like, unit manuals and stuff like that. Well, let's just have a quick unit discussion for those of you who may not be real familiar with the game. You have the basic rock, paper, scissors setup in Shogun 2. I mean, when I say this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be the case, but it's the general idea, is that sword beats spear, spear beats cav, and cav beats sword and archer, of course. And archers are kind of a balancing factor in there. You know, they can hurt all types of units. But here you're going to see the different types of infantry. They got sword infantry, heavy infantry, and then there's going to be spear infantry. And so obviously spear infantry is mostly meant for anti-cavalry maneuvers, and the spear infantry only consist of Yari units. So you have Yari Ashigaru, Yari Hero, Yari Ronin aren't in multiplayer. Then you have Yari Samurai. And so, I mean, just to give you a quick look right here, I mean, you can see that the Yari Samurai is built around, its speed is 4. So it's going to be fairly fast. It's got pretty good morale, decent armor. So it's going to be able to, you know, take a little bit slower kill ratio, or kill speed, I think, than the Yari Ashigaru under the same circumstances. Of course, yeah, I think I was just looking at the plain Yari Samurai, yep. And then you have the Yari Ashigaru, of course, whose stats is much lower. You know, they have no charge bonus, their morale's lower, their speed, actually their speed's the same as the Yari. The Yari Samurai just has, they just have the speed boosting effect. So my bad there, I don't want to mislead. But these guys only have 2 armor, you see, so they're going to be much more vulnerable to missiles. They do have a good bonus versus cav. So that's just the kind of idea behind Yari units, is they should really be used as a slowing force or an anti-cavalry force. And this bonus versus cavalry, so whenever they're fighting cavalry, as far as I understand it, they get, like, you know, a big boost to their attack. And, you know, it may be equivalent to that number, it may not be, and I'm not exactly sure how that number is related. But in any case, that's what the units are for. Let's go back to sword infantry. Have a quick showing here. A lot of people, of course, hate lone sword Ashigaru. It's kind of like the it's kind of like the angry, well, I guess Iko-Iki lone sword. It says infantry units description. Huh? It says Iko-Iki lone sword, but I've never seen these guys, and it doesn't say what building they can be trained from either. And I've never seen them yet in the campaign. But in any case, lone sword probably have similar. No, they don't have. Yeah, well, I mean, their statistics are going to be similar to this. Probably. I mean, I can't guarantee that. Anyway, yeah, lone sword's going to be hard to compare just because they're not showing the type of lone sword that you see in multiplayer here. But the Katana Samurai should be mostly the same. You can see that these guys have a little bit of armor as well, kind of like the Yari Samurai, but they're still somewhat vulnerable to missiles over a longer stretch. But not right off, you know, same morale. But you can see that their melee attack is quite a bit higher than any of the Yari units, and that's why a sword will beat a Yari unit in a one-on-one fight with the same upgrades, and it's because they have a higher attack. Yes, they have a little bit lower melee defense, but their armor combined with that melee defense and their high attack is going to give them a faster kill rate than the Yari units, which are going to have a lower attack stat. Now, no Dachi Samurai. A lot of you always ask me questions about them. These guys are to be used on the charge. That's what they're good for. So if you look right here, charge bonus of 28. Obviously, these guys are meant to deal their damage on the charge, because if you look, they have no bonus versus cav, of course, like any sword unit. Their melee defense is only 1, and their armor is only 2. So these guys are going to get mopped up with when they're not attacking. So you have to send them in on the charge. If you don't get the charge with these guys, they're going to be less than effective. These guys will beat a Katana Samurai if you get the charge. On level ground, same upgrades, or it'll at least be a close fight. I mean, it might depend a little bit on how the morale plays. Technically, though, they have the same morale. Let's see. And just for kicks here, let me show you the stats on a Katana Hero. So check this guy out. 25 melee attack, and the armor is 9, which I think a Naginata Samurai is the same or just below that. And from what I've been told, the armor trait is exponential, so like it's not linear. I don't know if any of you know what that means. You have to be a little bit familiar with math, but what I mean by that is increasing the armor from 2 to 4 isn't necessarily doubling your armor. It may have a greater effect than what you expect. So as the number in the armor gets higher, its protection effect is exponentially higher. If that's correct, that's what I've heard. Let's take a look at some of the other units that you all asked me about. The heavy infantry, let's take a look at them real quick. Naginata Samurai, again, I said these guys were good and versatile. Their melee attack is a little lower than Katana Samurai, but they do have a bonus versus cavalry, albeit it's less of a bonus than spear units. They have a bit of a charge bonus, which is helpful. And then they also have decent melee defense combined with, 9 armor. So that's why these guys are versatile. They can soak up missile fire pretty well. They have good defense, good armor, and a decent attack. That's why they'll hold out pretty well with a sword unit. I do believe one-on-one the sword unit probably would win that. But, again, that's a hard thing to say, and these Naginata units have a good versatility. That's one of the things that I like about them. The Naginata Warrior Monks. These guys have been nerfed in one of the patches, so their melee attack is slightly lower. I think it used to be 16 or something like that. Or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Anyway, their morale is 15, and so that's where these guys are good, is they'll stand and fight for a long time. They have good melee defense as well. They have a bit of a bonus versus cavalry. Obviously, you can see that their power lies in their morale and their melee defense, but you can see that their weakness is in their armor. They only have 2 armor, so these guys are going to be very vulnerable to missiles. So that's how you'd want to take them down. Warrior Nuns. People don't use these a lot. I don't really think they're that good of a unit. When the patch first came out, a lot of people seemed to think they were overpowered. But I think since they only have 75 units, they're probably pretty well integrated. They also have low armor, but they have a blazing high attack, a good charge bonus, and still solid melee defense. But their morale is actually a little bit lower than the Warrior Monks. So that's something you have to be aware of. They are good units. They can dish out quite a beating in the right circumstances, but their numbers are very limited. Let's see, what else was I going to take a look at real quick? Let's take a look at Spear Cav, just so you can get a look at this. The Yari Cav here, you can see that they have great speed. They have 12 speed, and that's why these guys are fast. That's why they can catch up with Bow Cav. They have pretty good morale. They have a little bit of armor. Their melee defense is terrible. So that's why if you mix up a Yari Cav unit with a sword unit for too long, eventually they'll start to take some pretty severe damage because their melee defense is very low. Their melee attack is also low, but you can see that they have a massive charge bonus of 25. So Yari Cav is best on the charge, and then they have a bonus versus other cavalry, so they're best on the charge and best versus other cavalry. That would be the use of Yari Cav. Light Cav has the same speed as Yari Cav, but I do believe these guys have a pretty decent spotting range. So they're kind of like scouts, and they can be used to try and be cheap and position themselves into lots of different spots to help maraud in the enemy lines. Let's take a look at the Naginata Monk Cav. These guys are kind of in between Yari and Katana units, like I've said before. So you can see they have a pretty solid melee attack, a much lower charge bonus, half the charge bonus of Yari, half of the bonus versus cavalry as the Yari, and but they do have higher melee defense stats than the Yari by quite a lot. And they have less armor than a Yari cavalryman. They do have better morale by 5, but their speed is also less. So to give you kind of an idea, the Warrior Monk Cav's a little bit slower. It does pack a little bit more of an attack punch, but it packs less of an anti-cav punch. I'm still kind of up in the air. I don't know exactly how these guys stack up against the other cav units, but I find them to be kind of a middle-of-the-road unit. So you just want to use them wisely. If they get the Warcry ability, though, through clan upgrades, that can be pretty devastating in a cav fight. Great Guard. Obviously, these guys are good for a reason. Their melee attack is high. Their charge bonus is huge. Their bonus versus cavalry is the same as Yari. They've got some melee defense, albeit not a lot. They have good armor, great morale, and decent speed. So that's why these guys are to be feared in battle. Let's go back out here. Let's take a look at Katana Cav real quick, because I want to show you these guys. Sword Cavalry. So Katana Cav is the only one. You can see that they have a massive melee attack of 18. That is a brutal melee attack. That is 6 more melee attack than a Katana Samurai on foot. So that's why these guys are so devastating against sword infantry. They have a huge attack. They have a little bit of a charge bonus. They have good defense, solid armor, good morale, and decent speed. So that is why these guys are good against sword infantry. That's also why they're incredibly deadly versus archers and other missile units, and also general units, because they have a big attack, good morale, and they can stay in a fight and cause a lot of damage. And the armor helps them stay in that fight longer. Interesting unit. I love those guys. The Bow Cav, I think you all pretty much know where these guys stand. I mean, they're obviously crappy in a melee. They are slower than Yari Cav, which kind of sucks. I wish they were just as fast, but they are not, so that is one of the weaknesses of Bow Cav. You have to be careful of Yari Cav, as they will outrun you. But you can keep pace with Monk Cav, Great Guard, and Katana Cav. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of there. Let's go. Whoops, did one too many. The siege units, I don't really think I need to show you. I think you all know what they do. I showed you Spear Infantry, the Special Infantry. Let's take a look at the Kisho Ninja. You can see that these guys have pretty solid attack, a nice charge bonus. They have good accuracy with their bombs, which is going to be helpful, and they have a quick reloading skill, so you're going to throw them fast. They got pretty good melee defense. They have probably middle of the road armor, good morale, and they're faster than most infantry units by 1. So that's the use of these guys. Obvious, their stealth characteristics, just to give you an idea where the ninja stands. And I think that's about it. I just wanted to give you this quick rundown on some of the units for some of you who may not have the game. As far as bow infantry, it should be pretty clear who's better here. Obviously, you have more numbers with the bow Ashigaru, but look at those stats as opposed to the stats of a bow samurai, which is considerably better. And then again, as opposed to the stats of a bow warrior monk, which are considerably better still. So there you go. There's a rundown on some units. Hope you enjoyed that. And like I said, I'll always be back as soon as I can, bringing you as much Shogun 2 Total War as I possibly can. So, Heir of Carthage signing off for now.